Namo Shakyamunaya Buddhaya. Dear brothers and sisters, dear friends, today is the 2nd of June in the year 2024.
Tôi nghĩ rằng là có những bài kinh rất là xa xưa, thế nhưng dường như nó rất là mới. Cái điều kỳ lạ đó là lời Đức Phật cách chúng ta 26 thế kỷ. Thế nhưng mà đối với chúng ta trong hoàn cảnh hiện tại, chúng ta ứng dụng trong sinh hoạt tu tập, dường như nó rất mới.
And it seems very brand new, and it responds to the needs of our society today. And I would like to review this sutra for you today. And there's one time the Buddha was in the Jeta Grove. And there was a goddess that came and asked him, you usually live secluded in the mountains. You live a holy life and you eat only one meal a day. And then you can explain it as this. The monks in the past,
đời sống của họ rất là giản dị, rất là khiêm tốn. Ăn uống thì không có đủ chất dinh dưỡng gì như chúng ta đâu. Thế nhưng mà nhan sắc của họ nó rạng rỡ niềm vui, nó không có nỗi lo âu phiền muộn.
There's no anxiety. And to use our terminology of today is that the traces of mental limitations was not there. Mental sickness was not there, was not present. And the one thing that we can understand is that goddess doesn't mean from heaven sent, but it also means people who live in a society that of wealth, atrocity, and money and power, and they have a lot of material riches. And so if you look from the term of Thiên Nhân, which is goddesses, in our own present day society is not different. We have so much excess food, we have so much time and many conditions to consume material things. We have a beautiful house, a car, or your youth. You have your love that is enveloping you. You have friends. You have a job. Even so, then in your job you have excess of a couple of $1 million. So that maybe even if you live 3 lives, you wouldn't use all of that money. But the sorrow, the anxiety, the unease, unhappiness is still drowning in your everyday life. And that unhappiness, it means it's the final mental state. The nearest is just like when you have disconnection. And the term phân liệt means they use this a lot. Phân liệt, it means knotted mentality. It's sort of like your worries and anxiety. It means it is like a way of being when you're angry, when you're sad. Sometimes you sit there dazed off, and sometimes you withdraw and isolate yourself because you wanted to socialize. And then sometimes you feel the boredom and unease and unhappiness. And if you look at this through the mental illnesses of today, we can look at each other and we can say it means almost all of us are almost gods. But we are like, but are we like that? It's like the number of our mind, state of mind, which is light or heavy at lightest. It could be whether you're sad or angry or happy or joy or like to blame or
Có những
criticize
lúc
others.
mình vui
There are
như lễ
times you're
hội,
so happy, like this a
có những phút
festival,
lúc mình
and
nằm
there's
dài
sad that
ra
you just
như thất tình,
lie like you have a broken
thì
heart.
có những lúc
And then
mình
there
giận
are
dữ
times
trong
when you're
chính cuồng nộ,
so angry
trong khi
that
người
it's
ta
just
nói
like
một câu rất
whipping
nhẹ.
when they just say just one thing.
Có những lúc không lý do gì
And there's
cả, mình
sometimes
cũng
that there's
bực
no
mình,
reason
nổi
at
những
all
kiểu buồn thiêu.
that you just sit
Cái dạng tâm thần trở nên
in
này
in
nó
this
có mức độ nhẹ nhất, nặng nhất.
freezing. There's a
Có
level
những
of
lúc
how
trở
you
nên trầm
freeze
cảm,
or how
nó
you just
cái trở
isolate yourself, and it can lead to
trạng đó
depression
là đời sống
and
không
to
có niềm vui,
suicide. And
không có
on
hứng thú
another
gì cả,
level is that you can have
gần như
no
là ta
joy
vây
in living. It's sort of
ta
like
quay quắt trong
that
đời
you can
sống 7
just
ngày hoặc
fo-
là nhiều hơn,
flow in the everyday
kiếm
life,
việc để
and
đi
it's
làm
just to
cho nó
find
thỏa lấp
things to
cái nỗi
do so
trống
that it
vắng
can
của tâm
fill
thức,
in this void of your
những cái
mind,
như lo lắng,
and to find something to
cái
be
chúng nó
happy
nhồi
about,
nhét cái tâm thức
or
ta,
things that just stuff into
để ta
filling,
không có
like
phải
these
lâm vô tình cảnh
fillers,
mà không có gì nghĩ suy.
emotional fillers, and so you don't have to
Do vậy
think
cho
about
nên
things.
ứng dụng
And so
bài kinh
then you
này,
can use,
từ
I
thời
use this
những vị
sutra
tiên đế
so
hỏi
that
xa xưa,
when the goddesses they've asked,
nhìn
the
cái
goddess
tâm
of
thức
that time,
chung
they've
ta
already looked
liền
back
chúng ta
in
mang lại
ourselves, we carry this,
có điều nặng
uh,
nhẹ, nó tùy
whether
phong độ
light
bền
weight
thôi.
or heavy weight. It
Mình nói
depends on
theo
each other.
những nhà
But
tâm
in
lý học
terms
hiện
of
đại
the psychotherapists of
thì mỗi người
today,
chúng
is
ta
that
thì
each
có
and
cái
every
mức
one
máu
of us,
cùng,
we're a little bit
cái mức
nutty,
cùng này thì
and
nhẹ,
this nutty, whether it's
chia là hoài ai
heavy or
thế thôi.
lightweighted, it depends on you. But we're all a little bit
Như khi
nutty
ngày xưa
sometimes.
thì hỏi rằng
And when you
chúng
ask about in the
con
past,
là
it's
có
like we
niềm
are
vui
so
sinh giới,
full of
hưởng thụ cuộc
joy,
đời,
of happiness, and you
thế nhưng mà
have
tại
the
sao chúng
ability
con
to
buồn
consume,
thảm,
but why are you so
chúng con
sad and in
chúng con không có
despair?
niềm vui trong
You
đời sống.
cannot have joy
Khi
in
đó
your
chư Phật
everyday life.
bảo
But all the monks,
quấn mình ở vai,
they just wear a patchwork
ôm
robe.
bát các thực
They
cơm
bring
nước,
their alms bone
canh
to
dư cho người ta,
ask for alms
và một ngày
of
sống giản dị
leftover
bằng
foods, and
một bữa
they
ăn tạm
live
bạc,
simply with just one meal a day
không có gì hơn cả,
and nothing more than that.
không có trò chơi,
And
không
there's no
có chương trình
games,
điện
there's
toán, không có
no
tranh, không có ước vọng
programs
gì
or
cả.
TV show
Nói theo ngôn ngữ nhà
like
sư
that. This is
chỉ
our
có niềm
language.
vui tràn ngập.
But
Là
they
tại
have
sao?
so much joy, they have so much happiness. And why
Thế
is
câu
that?
này thiên đế hết.
And the Buddha said,
Sở dĩ chư tăng,
dear friend,
các bậc
the
thánh
reason
trong rừng
why the monks
có
up
được
in the
mỹ mãn,
mountains, they have joy,
có được nhan
they
sắc
have
tươi
a
hòa,
beautiful
được
visage
tận
and
lợi,
happiness, radiant joy and
không
happiness.
con nào khùng
They're
hết.
not physically
Do
ill
cái
and they're not nutty,
không
is
than việc đã qua,
because they don't regret
không
the
mang,
things
không
that
mong việc sắp
past,
tới,
and they don't wait for things to
sống
come.
ngày ngay
They
trong hiện
live
tại,
every
do
day
vậy
in the
chúng ta
present
có được
moment,
một cái
and
an bình
therefore they
tĩnh
can
lặng
have peace and
và
joy
tươi vui,
in
không
they
khùng.
radiate joy, and they're not too nutty.
Nói dễ hiểu là thế này.
In simply put, is like
Những
this:
việc đã qua rồi
the
các bạn,
things that have already gone, they're not worried about the things that already passed. Even if the
trong bất
life is
cứ
empty in the
cái bạn,
past,
đó là
even
hoàng
if you're
đế,
rich, even
có
if you
vương
were a
hầu,
king, if you're a prince,
dục lạc có
and you
đại
have
diện cho
all the
các
sensual desires available to
nhưng mà
you,
họ bỏ
but
hết,
they let go of
hưởng
all of
thụ
that.
sống
They go
đời
into the
bình dị,
monastery and they
không
live a
than,
simple life
không
of
mong
a
vật chất,
monk, go for
sống
alms,
bằng lòng với đời
and
sống
in
thô
and
nhã,
satisfied
thế
with the
thôi.
life of simplicity.
Có khi củ khoai,
And sometimes just
chuối,
a
khi bắt tôi,
sweet
có khi một
potato,
quả
a
cam.
banana, or sticky rice, or maybe not even any
Tại
food.
một đời sống cất thực
Because
nó như
in a
vậy.
life of a mendicant is like that.
Dù quá khứ vàng
Even in
son
the
muôn màu,
past,
năm
no
tháng
matter how
đó
rich
nó
you
đều
are,
như nước chảy qua
that
cầu,
is
không có
just
vật
like
chất,
water flowing under the
cũng không
bridge.
mong việc sắp tới.
You don't wait for something to come
Sắp
or
tới
someone
mà
to
nghĩ
come.
rằng là ngày
It
mai
means that
nhất
like
định có thức
tomorrow,
ăn hay
when you
không,
have good
đói
food
hay no,
from
ngủ
your
nơi nào,
alms,
không
where you're
quan
going
tâm.
to sleep, where you're going to eat, where you're going to rest,
Và chỉ sống
and
ngay
you're not worried
với
about
phút
that,
giây
and
hiện
you're just
tại của
living
một
with
đời
the
sống
present
thanh nhàn,
moment
đó
of the
là khi
monastic
có
life in the
thức ăn
monastery.
rồi,
And it means that when you have
rồi
food already,
đủ sống một
it's
ngày,
enough to live
thì
in
cái
one
việc
day.
còn
Then
lại
the
là
only thing
chú
left
tâm
to
trong
do is
thực
to
tập,
dwell in the meditative
an
practice
lạc trong phút
and
giây
the
hiện tiền.
happiness in the present moment.
Do vậy cho nên
And
nhân
so
cách họ
therefore,
an hòa,
the visual,
tĩnh
they
lặng,
radiate
không lo
joy,
âu,
they have
không
peace
có
and
buồn
happiness,
phiền,
they are not
không có
worried,
khùng, không có
they
chết
are
chóc,
not
không có
crazy,
đói.
they're not nutty, they are just dwelling happily in the
Và
present
Ngài lại
moment.
nói thêm câu kế
And
tiếp,
he shared
đó
another
là
part,
do
and is
công
that
việc
it is
sắp tới,
because the work that is about to
do
come
than việc đã qua,
and the work that
nên
has
nó không
already
bị nhiễm
gone,
mòn,
they are
tái
not
sanh rồi tàn.
withered like
Nói
like a plant and like
một
a
cái
like
chúng ta
they're not withered. And
biết
this
nhớ
simply
tiếc
put
cái
is
mọi
that
thứ,
if you
cái lo lắng về
regret
tương
the
lai,
past and you worry about the
thì nó
future,
giảm đi tuổi
and
thọ
then
đời sống. Ngay
you
chúng ta cứ sống
age
theo vị
in your everyday life,
thân ngàn vàng năm
and then
tháng
your
dài,
body right
thì
here
tháng
and
tháng
then
giết
you
nghìn ngày
throw
tuổi thọ
away
theo vị
every
mà
day
không
of
đổi
your
thay,
life into the
một cách
trash
không thương tiếc.
without any regrets.
Các vị
You
làm
just
cái tâm thức
waste
của
it and
mình
you
nó
make
tràn
your
đầy những
mind
vui chơi,
full
những
of
buồn, những bất an,
afflictions and sorrow and
tác
despair,
ngã chính mình,
and you
lánh
torment
tình của cộng
yourself,
đồng mình, và nó lây lan cái
and then
lòng
it
tình, lòng thương
spread
cho những người
and
gần
torment
ngay
other
các vị.
people around you.
Ví dụ gia đình
For
các vị,
example, your
may mắn
family,
là chỉ có một
you're
người thôi,
fortunate there's only one,
thì cái người đó
and that
cứ
person
cứ
receives
tuổi thơ
everything.
rồi có vài
But if
ba cái
there are
sinh viên
other
nhỏ trong
people
nhà
like
thì lại tốt
children
hơn.
in your house, then
Nếu
your
các vị có
children
quan hệ xã
would
hội
receive
rộng,
that. If you have
thành thử các vị
your
bạn bè xã
friends,
hội
your
đều tốt cho các
family,
vị.
your loved ones
Nhân viên
will
trong
all be
các cái
affected
cơ
by
quan
the way
tư
you
nhân,
are, will be affected by the way
người
you
ta lại
are.
khổ ta,
You
người ta
make
không
yourself
thương.
suffer is normal.
Thế nhưng mà con người
But then,
họ có
as
siêu thông minh
humans,
lắm,
that we have a lot of
cho
intelligence. So
nên họ
therefore,
khổ
when they
rồi,
suffer,
họ muốn vung vãi cái khổ họ
they
lên
would
đầu
share
người
their
khác.
suffering to others.
Thế cho nên,
And so therefore,
thưa các vị,
dear friends,
do than
it's
thở việc
because
đã qua, do lo
you
toan việc
regret
sắp
the
tới,
things of the past, and then you
nên
worry
đời
about the
sống
things in the
của
future.
chúng
So
ta
for
tự
and then
hủy
you
hoại
worry
sinh
about your
mạng là
life,
một,
and you
hủy hoại
destroy
tình
your own
yêu là
life,
hai,
your own
hủy hoại
happiness,
môi trường sống
and
là
you
ba,
destroy your own
hủy hoại
environment,
luôn những
and
người
you
thân
also
yêu gần họ,
destroy your
kể
loved
cả
ones and
chết trong một
everyone,
khoảnh
and
khắc.
then you go
Vậy
into
thì
the
chúng ta
realm of
hãy
unhappiness.
ghi nhé.
I am seeing the sound room right now. Thank you.
Điều này không có gì khó
And
hiểu.
this is nothing hard to not
Các vị nhìn lại đời
understand.
sống mình nhận ra điều này ngay.
If you look into your life, you
Khi
can
mình vui,
recognize
mình
this.
có
When
mặt
you have happiness,
thì không cần mời gọi ai
if
cả.
happiness is present, you don't
Cái
need to call
vui biết
anyone.
lây
When
lan những người.
the happiness will be shared with
Cái nhìn của
others,
ta,
the
lời nói
way
của
that you
ta,
see
tâm
things, the
niệm,
way you
tư tưởng
say
của ta,
things, and your
nghiệp quả của ta,
actions, even your
nó
breath
cũng lây lan về phía
will
những người.
share that happiness that you presently have.
Thế thì khi cơn giận
And
các
but
vị
when
lúc
your
bùng nổ,
anger just
thì
bursts
các vị
out
thở ra cái
and
một
you're
hơi
able
thở
to
cũng bằng
breathe out
một cái
anger,
giận hờn,
and your anger is
nhìn
full of
đốt
anger,
cháy người ta.
and then you burn
Cử
other
chỉ các
people,
vị thì
your
cử chỉ nhỏ
actions
nhưng mà
is as
chỉ bằng
small,
đi cũng làm
whether
tổn thương
small
người
or
ta.
big, it will make other people hurt.
Và những cái nguyên nhân này nó
And
không
then
có
these
phải ở
reasons are
môi
not
trường bên
doesn't
ngoài hay
come
ở ngoại
from the
cảnh,
outside
do
of
bố mẹ ta
external
dạy dỗ ta,
environment, but it's
do
also from
ai
your
đó mở
parents
tiền ra
transmit
hướng
to
ta
you,
phải làm cái này cái
or
kia,
somebody had
chứ không phải.
rented you to do this, but it is you who
Do tâm thức
created
của
this.
ta nó lôi
Your
kéo những
mind has
quá khứ nặng
carried you
nề,
into this
những lo
past
âu tư
full
và
of
thâm
sorrow
và
and
thức tắt,
despair, and your mind
thiếu đi cái sự tịnh
is
lặng nhất
lacking this
định của
peace
một tâm thái an trú
of
ngay trong
peaceful
giây phút
mind, of
hiện,
dwelling in the present
để làm
moment,
tâm ấm dịu
to
cho những
to
thành
make
thị
your mind
trung tâm
calm,
của tâm thức.
so then you can take care
Thế
and
cho nên
embrace and
tôi gọi mệnh
transform
lệnh để
your
mọi
mind,
người
your
sinh hoạt.
sorrows. So I'd like to repeat
Cảm
this
thấy công
again. The
an đến niềm vui
capacity
an
to bring
ổn trong người
happiness
thì
for
chúng
others
ta không
is
chịu
sort of
thương
seems
nhớ.
like we're not
Cái
intelligent
những
enough
người
to do
thân
that.
trong
But
nhà, những
the
người thân của mình
ability to make
thừa thốn
people
mình.
suffer, we have all of us have that ability to do
Và
that.
người nào
And anyone,
tâm thức họ nó tràn đầy
whether
bực
they're
bội,
full of suffering
tràn đầy bất hạnh,
and
họ
unhappiness,
càng muốn
they
để cái sự
want
lây
to
lan đến người,
have this spread
họ
out
càng
to
muốn
other
tìm
people
hiểu
around them.
đến với người
And
họ
the people
không
who come,
hề,
the people who they don't
không muốn ai đó
not at all
nhìn
have
họ
the
bằng nụ
desire to
cười
look
để
at
thấy
them
họ
with their
khổ,
smile.
không
Nobody
chịu
wants them
buồn với
to
họ, lo âu với họ.
to smile
Cho
at them
nên
when they are
một cách
suffering.
chung đời
And
sống
so
chúng
then, in
ta,
general,
chúng
that
ta có
when
niềm
we
vui
have
một cách
happiness and
chậm,
joy, it
khó.
spreads
Thế
slowly,
nhưng mà chúng
and
ta
it's
không
very
có
difficult.
nỗi khổ
But
thì
when we
tâm
have
thức nó lây lan
suffering,
rất nhanh.
we want the suffering to
Cho nên
spread
chúng ta
quickly.
gọi cái bài kinh
And
này,
so therefore we call this sutra.
xa chúng ta 26 thế kỷ nhưng
After
gần chúng ta
26
vì chúng ta
centuries
có
is
mặt bây
very
giờ ở đây
close to us,
đối
as if
với
it
mọi
was
người.
just given to us right today for all of us in this room.
Mình đọc lại,
I like to repeat this again.
tôi nghĩ
I think
chỉ cần một bài kinh thôi
just
nó
this
có
one
thể giúp
sutra
ích
is
cho
enough
chúng
for
ta.
you to apply into your everyday life to help yourself.
Thường sống trong rừng núi,
Usually living up in the
bậc thánh
mountains,
sống
a holy monk
một
lives a
ngày
holy
một
life.
buổi,
They're eating just one meal a
làm sao
day.
họ thù nhiều.
How can they
Thế tôi nói
radiate joy
những
and
ai
happiness?
đã qua,
Because they do not
không mong người
regret
sắp
the
tới,
things that have gone,
sống
and
ngay
do
chỗ
not
hiện
wait
tại
for things
do
that
mong người
happen
sắp về
that
diệu,
will come, and they dwell peacefully in
do
the present
mong việc sắp
moment.
tới,
Because of
do than
dwelling
thở
in the
việc
past,
nên
before
trái tim
waiting
gắn
for
bó
the future,
như lòng
and
đất
therefore
cằn.
your mind is just withered.
dễ hiểu nhất là
It's
như
easy, it's just
không
like
phải
the
lúc nào
fresh green
vừa
leaves.
đẹp vừa sống tràn đầy,
They're full of
xong
life,
rồi nó rụng.
but then it falls.
Nó rụng là do vì
It falls because
đời sống nó nhiều áp lực,
there's so much pressure in
cuộc sống
life.
nó nhiều lo toan,
There's so much worry and anxiety.
tâm thần nó bị bệnh phân liệt.
There, and there is this
Nó
freezing,
khùng, nó cực
frozen.
độ, phải tự cứu nó được cho nó
It
tỉnh
comes
táo
to a
trở lại.
point where their mind cannot save themselves. They
Dễ
suffer
hiểu
so
nhất.
much to be paralyzed in this. And this is
Đây là
something
những
that
cái
for us to
lời
understand. This
dẫn
is
dắt
the first time that I would
từ
like to
thời
share
cổ
with you.
xưa,
It's like the sutras of the
xưa như trái
past,
đất,
as
nó thì
old
mới
as this
với
earth,
hôm nay.
but as new as if it was just for
Và sự
today.
tuệ giác
The
với triết lý
insight of the wisdom
điều
of
như
the
vậy.
Buddha was able to help us see
Thế
this.
thì cái vấn đề chúng
So
ta
then,
thế này.
what is our situation now?
Thưa đại chúng rằng là vàng
And
bạc
so if
kim
you
ngân đức Phật
look
gia
in the
nhiều
sutras,
chứ
and
không phải
there's so many
không phải một vài.
sutras like this, but it's not just one.
Nếu chúng ta có thể
But if you
có nhiều
can
thời gian đọc
have
một
more
kinh
time
Phật
to
thì
read
thấy
the
chỉ có
sutras, you
hai
will
cái
see
vấn đề
there's
chính
only
sách.
two things general in
Vấn đề đầu
overall. There's
tiên
two
chúng ta nêu
topics. There's
lên
like
đó
the
là
first of
những
all,
cái nỗi
the
khổ
Buddha
sầu của đời sống
brings
con
out
người,
is like the
những cái gian khổ.
suffering of the people in the world, in this world,
Hay nói cách
or in
thông
general,
thường của
like
đạo Phật
in
phổ
Buddhist
biến,
terminology,
đó là
is
chân lý
suffering
đắc thực trong cuộc
as a
sống
noble truth. Is
thế
the
gian.
absolute noble truth that there
Nỗi
is
khổ này
suffering. This
ngày
suffering,
xưa được
in the
được rằng là
past,
siêu nhiên,
it has
các
been
vị thánh
the holy ones,
trong
the
cảnh giới vô hình
goddesses
như
in
Atula,
the
với loài
Asuras
người,
and
cho tới
humans
thấp hơn loài
and
người mà
all the
là
less
động
than
vật,
humans, the animals,
có sinh mạng
that
chịu
they
khổ
have a
chung một
life,
cái nét,
they have
đó là
one
nỗi
thing
khổ giống
that
như
is
nhau.
suffering. They suffer the same way.
Ngày xưa lúc
In
mình
the
còn
past,
nhỏ mình không
when
phân
I
biệt
was
được
young,
rằng
I
là
didn't
tại sao tự
understand
nhiên
that
lại khổ.
why were the gods
Thế là bây
suffering.
giờ các vị
And
hãy nghĩ
now,
sang một
if
điều
you, I
rất
realize one
hay
thing
trong
that
chúng
is very
ta.
close to us in our everyday life
Trong
is
thế
that
giới loài
in
người
the
có
realm
những
of
sinh mạng
human, there are
dường
people who
như
are
không ai
born.
thoát được
Not
cái sự
everyone
độc ác.
can escape
Từ vị tổng thống
from the president,
là một người có quyền
as
uy,
one who
giàu
has a
có
lot
nhất.
of present, uh, uh,
Nhưng mà
more
những người
power
họ bất
and
hạnh như bao
rich,
nhiêu con
but
người,
he's unhappy just like
cho
somebody
tới
else.
người không đến
And
đường
until
phố, họ
even
không
a
có cửa
homeless
nhà,
out
không
in
có
the,
cơm
they
ăn,
don't have
không có
any
áo mặc,
home,
không có
no
nhà mát.
food,
Nói cách chúng
no
ta là
hope
không
for
có sắc
tomorrow.
đẹp,
They
không
don't
có
have a
cuộc sống,
car,
không
they
có
don't have a
gia đình,
house, they don't have loved ones.
dường như rất giống nhau.
And so we're all the same.
Tại vì
Because
khi tâm thức chúng ta
in our
còn lo
state of
âu
mind, when we still have
và
worry
phiền
and
muộn,
anxiety, when we have
chưa có pháp
afflictions,
hành trì,
and we
chúng
don't
ta
have a
sẽ
way of
luôn trong một
practice,
cái tình trạng
that we're
sống
in a
với nhau.
situation where we
Thế cho
suffer
nên vấn
from
đề
each
thứ
other.
nhất của Phật
And so
giáo
the
là
first
phải
thing that
giác
the
ngộ
Buddha has
điều
taught
này.
us, you have to recognize this.
Điều thứ hai,
And
chúng
the
ta
second
thấy
thing
rằng
is
là
that you
nơi
need to
nào có
recognize that
khổ,
anywhere that there is
nơi nào
suffering,
có buồn phiền,
anywhere there
nơi
is
nào có
sadness
bất
and
hạnh, nơi
affliction,
nào
or
có khổ đau,
unhappiness
thì
and
nơi đó
suffering
có
and
pháp cứu
despair,
trị,
there is a Dharma to help.
có phương pháp để
There
loại
is a
trừ.
way to eliminate that.
Và khi mình nhìn ra hai vấn đề này thì các vị
And when
nhìn
you
lại cuộc
recognize
sống
this,
con
then you
người
look
này
into
thì
your
các
own
vị sẽ
life in
nhận
this
ra
life, and
rất
you're
là
able to
nhiều vấn đề
recognize that
có
there
rất
are
nhiều
so
bài
many
học
things, there's
từ
so many
chúng ta.
lessons for us to learn from our
Ví
own
dụ
self. For
những cái
example,
tầng cảnh hay
like
cái
on the
tầng
most
cơ thể vật lý chúng
basic
ta,
level in our material or
thì các vị
physical
nghiệm ra
form,
rằng là
you can just
không
see
có
that
một
if
thể
there's
nào,
no
không có cái yếu
body, young
tố
person
để
who has
tự nó bảo
immune
vệ cái
system
sống cảnh,
to
để nó
protect their
duy
own life,
trì tuổi
and it
thọ, để
maintains
nó
its
có cái
own
phòng tật
longevity,
bệnh,
and then to prevent
chống chọi
illness
với những
and
cái
to
loài lây nhiễm bên ngoài,
prevent the invasion of
trừ
bacteria
những cái
and
đại dịch
viruses,
lớn
except for great
như Covid-19.
uh, uh,
Thế nhưng chúng ta
pandemic
là
like COVID
cơ
19,
thể nó vẫn
but
tự
then the
cường,
body is able to
nó vẫn được
adapt and
nó vẫn
eliminate
tự
it,
tạo kháng
and it
thể.
creates its own immune
Cho đến ngày
system for
nay
it.
dịch
Up until
nó
now,
không
and
có
it's
một
like
dịch bệnh
with
mà
the
thế giới
COVID 19 that
coi
one took
như là
over the
bình thường,
world, and now they see it as
cảm thấy được.
very normal, like a common cold or
Từ
common
điều
flu.
này nó chứng minh
And
rằng
this is
là
the
đúng như
proof is
quá
that
nhiều của Phật dạy,
according to what the
nơi
Buddha has
nào
said,
có khổ,
anywhere that
nơi
there is
đó là
suffering,
tâm Phật
then
trụ trách
in that
để
suffering
cứu
there
độ.
is a way to cure that suffering.
Nơi nào có
Anywhere
sự
that
phiền
there
não,
is
nơi đó
afflictions, then there is
người trí có thể
a,
chỉ
a
ra
person
được
with
phương
wisdom
pháp
to
cứu độ
recognize
phiền
us to
não.
save you from the affliction.
Và khi các vị nhận
And
được
when
điều
you're
này
able
thì
to
các vị
see
thấy
this thing,
rằng
then you're
là
able to see
ở
that
cơ thể của
that
chúng ta
each and every one of
trong
us in
tâm
our
thức,
own body in a physical form
khi có tật
is
bệnh
that when
tâm
you
thức chúng
have
ta có một
disease or
cái vấn đề
sicknesses,
ngắn nhất
then you
định
have
để nó
an
cứu
immune
chuộc cho
system
mình
to
thoát
help
nạn.
you and to save you at a
Thì
certain
chúng ta
level.
cũng nhìn
And then,
nhận điều
and
rằng
you
là nếu tâm
recognize
thức chúng
that
ta
if in
bệnh,
your mind is ill,
những cái cơn xung đột của
you
phiền
have
muộn
these
là giận,
urges of anger and hatred and sadness, despair that come, and then how
không
can
phải
you
là
help
một
with
phương
that?
pháp gì
It is not
ngoài
anything
cái
different
khả năng
other
tập
than the
trung
ability to
học
self, learn the way to save yourself, to heal. And then that relates very closely to the teachings of the Buddha. The Buddha did not give one Dharma from the outside, a remedy to place in like a program that you can download on an app or a computer. But the practice is that it's already there in your own mind. But then the one thing that we have here is that we're so intelligent that we think that the teachings of the Buddha is so ancient, is irrelevant. His teachings are irrelevant to us, and so we do not apply it to our healing. And so but if you have the ability to have faith in the teachings of the Buddha, of his enlightenment, and then we can use it and apply it, then you can heal these sicknesses of sadness, despair, uh, and even the little being that a little bit nutty can be healed too. And this is a good news for us. But then, but we would need to recognize is that anywhere that there is a suffering, where at that time our body, our mind, our environment, and that place that will have a means and method for us to heal. And in fact, that other outside of us, anywhere where there is trees, the poisonous trees, then there are also plants that would remedy the poisonous plants. That there's animals uh, that have poison that kill people. That there is a remedy for that, but that is the nature of nature. And if you look into this and then into and anywhere, it's the same. And in this realm, in this planet, outside an environment, on this planet, gives birth to human, give you the conditions, that the most wonderful conditions, so you can balance your life and to heal yourself and heal your body and mind. And this is the one thing that we would like to share with you, first of all, before we can talk about healing our mind. We're just healing our body. So if we hear these philosophers or scientists um, who research on the nature and the healing in nature, and they observe that all living beings on this planet, all animals on this planet, all living beings on this planet, nature has created it and created wonderful conditions that there is a certain time for that the rest of life will balance out the activities of human life in a day. And if we need to, that will help us to live a long life, have longevity. So if you look in this at the sun that is on this planet, or at this planet that it goes around on its axis of like there's 12 morning and 12 evening and 12 morning, and that 12 in the evening creates the darkness on this planet so that we can rest whether or not we want to rest. The life with 80 years or 100 years, that you have to at least relax at least one third of your life, sleep at least one third of it. So then as you're older, then you need but you're older, you sleep less, but when you're younger you sleep a little bit more. The you're younger you are, and that you're in development age, that you sleep more deeply. Let's just say they discovered babies, they sleep 24 hours, like and children sleep less, and then as you go older and older and older, you sleep less and less and less. The less you sleep, the you're closer to death. It's true. No denying it. It's as it is, right? Like the time that the development of life is sad, yeah. And anyone in your everyday life, now that you worry less, you don't have anything, and you lie down and you snore right away, that means you have youth forever. Even if you are sick, but they live for a very long time, and they just live their life. When their affliction comes, they just need to sleep, and then their afflictions go away, and their mind comes back to the and they are able to maintain their longevity, their beauty, their youth, and their faith in love. And anyone who lies forever and doesn't sleep, and they're only 30 years old, and they just lie and have insomnia. It's like he's only 23 years old, but I asked him if he was like 30 yet. But then in your own life, is 100 years. It's like, why do you have to sleep 1/3 of your life? You have to be awake to make money, to enjoy life. But that nutty person will die first before before the 100 year. They get took wake up, stay awake all the time. They don't go to sleep. There's no rest. So then to say that you can recognize that one thing, nature has created a series of a cycle in your own life so that you can maintain your longevity and your health. And this is the one thing that in terms of nature. And the second view is that in a developmental society like we have, developed society, there's not a they don't need meditation. They don't need to listen to the Buddha's teachings of breathing in and breathing out. They just live their everyday life, and they live to 100 years old. And then now we see a kind of food that we need for the West, for the people or developed country. It is like a kind of food that that we absolutely need. Why? It's because you do not know how to moderate, you know how to rest and relax, and you do not know how to live with the nature that is around you and to have a natural meditative practice. In the past, they didn't want to, but they went into this meditative practices because they were able to relax since they were young. The children in the past that they lived happily until 15 years old, they're still running around in the streets and playing. But now the kids nowadays at 5 or 7 year olds, they have to go to school and after school program, and the more they grow up, they are more stressed out, and by the time they're older, they don't have a job, and then you're stressed out, they're stressed out because they don't need to. And so then you can see this in itself to recognize that you can recognize that anyone who can sit at the meal that continues to eat from morning to end evening nonstop, that person is about to die. And your body can only take in just enough food, and it needs time, double the time, to digest the food so that the food can become blood and nutriments and muscles to nourish your body. This, edible foods, there's a limit to how much you can consume. But in your everyday life, the insight, the wisdom of our everyday life does not only allow us to consume edible foods, but the coarse foods, but it also capacity to consume through many different doors, through your eyes, ears, nose, and contact. And then we just add it on. Like all these kinds of food that are not visual, you can't see, or invisible foods. Like the things that you hear, things that you see, that you think, and things that you feel. Then you think that, you know, that when you read a news that it disappears if you read a news. No, it is stored into your brain and becomes a memory. It becomes a memory and it becomes a state of mind, and it just nurtures you. And it becomes like a information or database that could create. It is a seed that creates this plant of whether it nurtures your mental health or not. And then at one point, eventually, and if your material foods, edible foods, makes you physically ill, then all the news that you take in, things that you have thought, things that you have, becomes a kind of food that creates mental health, because it doesn't allow your mind to rest. And you read this and you learn this because you have two parts, 2/3 of the time to relax, so that it can let go of the information that you consumed, so that you can receive nourishing information. And this, I'm sure that you will not be mentally paralyzed. Will you not be deprived of physical food, and you will not be a little bit nutty or a little bit crazy, and so that we don't have this. You just use all these information, consuming this kind of news, and you think it'll enrich your life, but in fact, but this is a way that you create more mental limitations. So therefore, that if you look into nature and you can learn the lesson of relaxation, and if you look into your everyday life of the people of the past, and to learn the meditation practice very easily, so that their mind become a little bit more relaxed, lighter than you, and there's no way to have no weight, no worries, anxiety in their life. This is the way. We don't need to practice Buddhism. You don't need to learn a lot of the sutras, the texts. You just need to observe your everyday life and to observe the people around you, those who are a little bit nutty, or you when you're a little bit nutty, and you can recognize this for yourself. I don't know if I hurt anybody's feelings in here when I'm calling everyone. We're all a little bit nutty, okay? It's not. It's not. It's not. Not that nobody is nutty. We're all the same. We got a little bit nuttiness in us. And so the third thing that I want to say that if you understand this basic practice, you should think that the practice or meditative practice is one of the elements that will help us to 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 heal the paralyzing of our mental paralysis. And then there is that they have a mental paralysis, and it develops it in a way it doesn't develop normally. It means that you have social anxiety and you're despair, and then you're happy as a child, by almost like bipolar. That sometimes you're like a saint, or sometimes you act like you are in the streets. So that you have many different personalities. You're not able to recognize is because your source of nourishment is overflowing, and then it can develop and become whoever it wants to be without you being aware of that. And there will come be a point of time when your mind, there's so much information, it becomes these like chit chat in your mind, and you think that there's the holy ones or the gods are telling you to go to give teaching. This is nutty on a thick and nutty kind of crazy, where you start to be hallucinating. Huh? But it is almost, it's like they see that life, there's nothing worth uh, is nothing worth living, then it'll push you into having these suicidal thoughts. In general, in this society, there's about a couple million people who have mental limitations and disabilities, and those of us and in the everyday life, and they make each other suffer, and that is a little bit of mental paralysis. It's almost like when that term, it sort of seems like in terms of terminology, in terminology, it's like you're a little bit crazy. Huh? And then if you recognize this, then you can see that the needs of society today, if there is a number of people who are in that kind of state of mind, and they're on a level mental paralysis, it's just that they come to society. It's almost like you can say the what is Lendam? Lendam is like it creates a society based on superstition, full of anger, or sometimes atheist. It becomes a kind of faith of like cult with no basis on wisdom and insight at all. This is a collective mental paralysis and personal. It means that you make yourself suffer, you make the people around you in your family suffer, and then when it has developed, become kind of a collective sickness for a family, it becomes spread out into society. And on the basis of this is not hard to understand. It's because the sensual desires, the culture of the
Chứ
country.
không phải đi gần
And then in the
nói
closest to us, if we say that I would like to share with you, is this comes from because every day we put in too much information through our eyes, ears, nose,
rất
and
nhiều
mind.
những thông tin
So
rất
much
mới
news that we don't have a chance to lie
hoặc
still
trong cái hội
or
chúng
to
ta phải
have to
gom ghép
sleep
để cho tất
a,
cả những điều
a,
đó nó
a
trôi
good
nổi nó mất
sleep.
và hư vô,
And then all
cho
of
nên
that,
là trở
we
thành
are
một cái
afraid that it will be
rất
lost, all
thấp
that
cho
information will
chúng
be
ta
lost.
chỉ
So we
sống
have to make that kind of information
như
become
chúng
our
ta
own way of
nó trở
thinking,
thành một
our
bộ
own
phận
way
của
of
ta,
being, and our own way.
chính
So
nó
then, because
làm cho chúng
therefore,
ta bị
it
thức
makes us paralyzed or a little bit nutty. And so,
rồi trở lại
therefore,
cái
that
này
we go back to that
người
situation,
xưa
whereas that
không
in
có
the
thực
past,
hành cái
they
này
didn't have this
hoặc là chúng
nuttiness.
ta ngay
Let's just say, even in the US, there are about 5 or 6 years,
bác sĩ tâm lý
10
hay
years,
kiểu đó là
psychotherapist
chỉ có
was
việc là Phật
was
giáo
just
là
like
nuôi một cách dễ
is a
dàng,
little bit
có ai cần
money.
đâu.
And nobody who had mental
Thế thì bây
illness.
giờ
But now,
thế giới người ta tính
in the
toán
realm,
rồi
that if
đưa
they
ra
say
không
now
có
that
một đất nước
there
nào
is
mà
no
bác sĩ tâm
country
lý
that
nhiều như nước Mỹ cả,
in the U.S. it's a
không có
high
một cái nước nào
percentage right
mà
in
chuyên trị những cái
psychotherapists
câu chuyện cả,
and lawyers in the
và gia
United
đình
States.
can thiệp
And we've got so
về
many
kỹ
lawyers,
thuật,
and because in terms of
tiến bộ,
development
về danh
and
vọng, vốn
engineering
liếng,
and desire and money and
chưa
power,
có quốc gia nào
there's
trên thế
no
giới này
country is not
giàu
as good
có,
as
sang
wealth,
trọng,
fame
hưởng
as the
đủ điều
U.S.
kiện tiện
You
nghi
have
hết
so much
cùng khi khác
conditions,
thành
but
một con người.
of pleasure and consumerism, but we're also the craziest. So
Tại do vì chúng
is it
ta không
because of
biết
us?
tận
It's
dụng
because we
được
do
trí
not
tuệ
know
hiện
how
tại
to
và ước
live
lượng
our
những
life
cái
in
điều đó
moderation,
trong cái
to
quá trình
moderate
phát triển
these kind of
và chúng ta
things, the information that we
duy trì
consume,
chúng ta
the
sống
things that
cho
we
nên nó làm
think,
quá tải
see, and
rồi,
hear, so that it
liệt
overflow.
kê
And
nhiều
then you
là mình chỉ
list
việc
out
những
so
điều
many
này
things that comes
chúng ta
down to
cần
that there's
phải
only
sống
thing
thế
that you
nào
need to do is to live
đạt
in
tới
such a
cái mức
way
độ siêu
to
thoát
limit
các
your
tầng 3
consumerism through eyes and
vững
ears and
duy
feeling
trì công việc
and thoughts and
khác
emotions,
với công việc này
to
tất cả
moderate all of that.
50% của một
Then
loại
it
tâm
will
trạng
help
tâm
you
lý tâm
alleviate
thần nhiều
50% of your
làm cho mình
mental
cứu mình
unhappiness.
còn chịu khó
And then so they can save
làm cho
you,
đời sống
so you
bình
can
an
have a
dồi
longer
dào
life. So then
rằng là chúng
you
ta
you're not wealth
đừng mơ
be
ước
in that,
làm
but you're full of happiness.
đừng mơ
Do
ước
not
làm tổng thống,
wish to be the president.
dốt đừng mơ ước làm tổng thống mất công nha,
Don't be the
nghèo thì
president.
thôi
You
làm
can,
được rồi,
even if you're poor, don't be the president.
bằng lòng với đời
Just
sống
be
của mình hiện tại,
satisfied with your life.
bằng lòng với đời sống hiện tại,
Yeah,
mà
be
nếu bất hạnh
satisfied
thì
with your
chưa
life.
bao
If
giờ
you're
có làm tổng thống,
unhappy,
cho nên
then
bằng
it's
lòng
not
với cuộc
even,
đời với những
like
gì
what
nữa
the conditions is
cho
that
phép
you
mình
allow yourself
thiền tập
to
một phần
be a
ba thì
meditative
giờ đời
practice
sống chỉ cần
or
sống
relax in
hạnh phúc
1/3 time of
lúc
your every
trở
day,
về
and so that your
chúng
life
sanh
your
chương
happiness will
trình
come
đường
back to
tình
your life like it had been in the
cắt bớt
past.
đi những
So
gì
you
không cần thiết,
limit or
có điều kiện thì lo
consume
những gì có điều
information with
kiện làm,
moderation so that you have
không cần
relaxation
phải lo
and
bận
rest.
rộn
You don't need to be worried
làm
or
những
in
điều gì đã
anxiety.
những quá
And the
khứ đi
things that
qua
the
rồi
Buddha
không
has
cần
taught, the
thiết,
things that are already passed, you have
miễn
no
cho
regret
tâm
about them.
vương làm tổng
And the
thống cũng buông
future
xuôi
of wanting to become the president, you can just
là
let
tốt
that go.
đó
Don't even dream about it anymore.
cải
Yeah.
thiện đời sống của
And
mình.
then you would have happiness, right?
Thế rồi
So,
với người có duyên mang tu
with
tập thì
the
chúng ta
people
hãy
who
đưa ra
as
những
fortunate
điều
as us who
định
has the
hướng nhé.
practice is something that can
Tại
be
vì biết
easily
rằng
done.
thánh
You
hiền
know
ngày
that the
xưa
the
không
Buddha's
cần phải làm
students, they didn't have to do anything other,
tu
they don't
học
need to
tất
like
cả,
go into deep into
không
samadhi or anything
có
like that.
vị thánh nào
There's
dạy
no
chỉ
holy
thuận
monk
tự
that did not
giác
just go into the
thực hành
dharma
Phật
of
pháp.
following your breathing. That's all they did.
Mình nghe thì dường
Then
như
we
bình
hear
thường
that and we're
thôi,
like, oh, that's
họ
nothing.
dạy phải thở,
Well, like anyway, anyone's
không
breathing.
thở thì chết
If
mất.
I don't breathe, then I'm gonna
Tại
die.
tôi sinh ra
But
cái
then
tâm
my
đó phải
birth,
thở lại.
by birth, when my mother
Đó,
gave birth to me, she didn't teach me.
họ
I
sinh
was
ra
already
cái
breathing. So
cơ
your
quan để thở là
breathing
tự nhiên,
is something you
tự
see it
nhiên
as
chạy.
natural, as
Do vậy cho
nothing
nên là bỏ quên cái thở
extravagant.
ra.
That's why you
Vì
can
cái thứ
forget it.
hai,
Then you just leave it.
ta
And
đồng nhất mình
and then
vào
you
một
make
vườn
yourself,
vui
you
và
throw
bão
yourself
tố.
into worries,
Một
anxieties, and
làm
happiness and
mọi thứ nó
affliction,
tiện lợi sinh
and
ra
you throw
nhu
yourself in
cầu
all
an
the
toàn tâm
consumerism
trạng
of
và
information, and
ta
you store this
không có thực hiện.
information to have a mental
Bây giờ
paralysis where
việc đầu tiên cần
you,
làm
and the first thing that you need to do
đó là
now
chỉ
is
cần
to,
chú
all you
được
need to
tâm
do
về
is to
hơi
pay
thở vào
attention
ra
to
thôi,
your in and out
thì
breath.
các vị loại
And
trừ
then you
đi
can
một
eliminate
bất
already
kỳ
as
bạn cố
this void and emptiness in your own mind and in your body and mind, and why we need to read news or to search the web or to learn other things, to keep keep the phone on you and cannot let go of it. It means like if you don't have the phone, then you don't die without your phone. In the past, our ancestors didn't have a phone and they didn't die, and if you have to stick to it. But not one phone is not enough, and then other things too. To do what? So then you can fill your mind to feel this loneliness inside of you. So the only thing that you need to do is that you look into your in and out breath, enjoy your in and out breath, and then you feel yourself full of joy, not empty. Not and there's you don't need anything else in your own mind to fill in that void inside of you, and that is enough in your everyday life. The second thing is like you should be aware of the conditions that you have, and I already have, and I'm going to remind you now. And then I'm going to tell you this story that is very realistic. Everybody knows in the past there was Brother Phap Gong who used to live here. He has a birth that he had a um, scoliosis, and he came over here, and the situation worsened, and it pressed on his nervous system, and then his feet started to have no feeling. So he would do sitting. He wouldn't sit it like he wouldn't sit beautifully. But then every day, then it became worse, and he had to, by in any means, to fix his scoliosis because it affected the way that he lived, and then to to sit straight like you are with his a straight spine. Do you know? Well, then if you poor, luckily insurance was to help him. It's about $800,000 to have surgery to sit upright and beautifully like you are now. And so then, it's not easy for you to have this healthy body to sit upright. And you see that it costs $800,000 to sit upright, at least $800,000. Also, then everything, when you're full of worry and anxiety and unease and affliction, and if you can just try to sit peacefully to look at the and to look in the mirror that you see sit as beautifully as a Buddha, it's enough happiness there in itself to enjoy life for yourself through the own body that you presently have. You don't have to waste any money. No. And then the one thing is that you see that you have nothing. You wait until you have no more teeth. At that time, there's no more teeth to brush. And then you feel that, oh, to have a whole mouthful of teeth would be the greatest happiness. It's just like say that to have two teeth to brush every morning is the greatest happiness. You don't need anything else. To have a nose to breathe that is not congested or doesn't have asthma, then or sinuses or allergies, and then that is greatest happiness. So then the Dharma of the practice that the Buddha has taught is in your own body and stuff. From the recognizing your in and out breath, you can see your own body. And you can see that you are sitting here upright and scanning from the top crown of your head to your feet, that you don't have any sickness. Look into the Dharma of practice. The first Dharma of the practice, it means that your mind is not running around, wandering around, searching for things. One state of mind, of this wandering mind and this running on, it is unhappiness moving, it meaning not the kind of happiness is that you are broken family, but that it is like your mind is just a busy body. You're not able to stop right here and enjoy life here. And then this level of unhappiness, it is very, very faded. It does not give you it doesn't make you suffer as heavily, because it is the foundation. It leads you to a habit. It leads you to a habit that your mind doesn't stop by in your own body. So that the Dharma that you practice, that the Buddha has taught, is that you sit and look at your own body and contemplate your body. Look at your body and contemplate your body, and that's it. You just need to listen to your body and observe your body, and that's all you need to do. And then to be satisfied with what your body and happy with your body. And then it's not ill, it's not sick, it's not hunched back. And that is the greatest happiness. And then when this is present,
nó tạo thành
then it
cái
creates for
quen
you
thuộc
like a
cho mình,
familiarity.
không có
Is that
lo,
you are
không
no
còn giữ,
longer
không còn
worried
tính
about the
việc tương
past,
lai,
you're not worried
không
about the
phù
future,
đức quá khứ
you
để
don't
làm
think
cho
about the
tương lai.
past and the future to be
Không
weighted in your own heart, and
không
worry
giữ
about
cảm
the
hứng
future
cản
so then to
giữ
wait
cái động lực của
to
mình.
run for the presidential election to be have a headache, then you'll have happiness right away.
Điều thứ hai cũng dễ
And
hiểu
the
cho
second
chúng
thing
ta
is
đó là
easily for
khi
us to understand is that
dùng cái
when
tâm cái việc
you use your mind to look into your own body, contemplate
năng
your own
lượng tâm
body,
của ta,
the energy of your mind,
nó như bầu
it
khí
is
bao
like
phủ toàn thân của ta,
it is like
nó
an,
như là một loại bảo vệ
a
tốt lành
protection
cho
around
lại
your whole
từng
body,
tế bào
then it allows
của
every single
thành
cell
người
of your
thân
body to have
đề
strength
kháng được mọi loại tật bệnh.
to be immune to any bacterial or viral invasion.
Khi tế bào khỏe
And
mạnh,
when your cells are
nó có quyền
healthy, then it has the right
khống chế mọi
to
loại tật bệnh
prevent
từ bên trong
all
cơ
of
thể
the
chúng ta.
sicknesses that come in from
Mọi loại
inside
tật bệnh
out. Any sicknesses
đối
like
với chúng
normal
ta,
sicknesses,
chúng
like
sẽ nhiễm
we
nó hàng
can
ngày.
think, just think that
Mọi
is
loại
that
bệnh
every
theo những
sickness
phóng
that
sinh
you
trầm
have
trọng
come
là do việc các vị
deeply is
bị
because you are what?
thời khí. Thứ
You
nhất,
are
bị cảm não,
you
có
are
hàng
cold.
từ
You
cái
have a
ví dụ
cold,
như khổ cổ, lúc
dry
khó
throat,
chịu,
sore
như là
throat,
dị
itchy
cảm,
throat,
cho đến
and
cơn
to
cảm lạnh.
cold, to flu,
Ngay lúc
to
được mắc
etc.
bệnh,
etc. Even if
mình
when
mới
you
trị
are
liệu
sick,
được,
you're able to
bệnh
heal,
không phát sinh.
then the sickness the sickness will not come.
Từ cái điều này
From
cho chúng
this,
ta có nhìn
you
rằng
will
tất cả
give us
loại
to
tật
see
bệnh
that
của
all
chúng
of
ta
the sickness of our
thì nó
body,
có mặt là do
and the
việc
reason why
năng
it is
lực đề
present
kháng
because the
của
energy
chúng
of
ta
our
bị yếu đi.
immunity system is weak.
Từ điều này chúng ta
And
nhìn
this you
ngược lại
can look
tất cả các
reverse
bệnh
look, and to
khiến
look
cho
at this
việc
when
tâm
you
của chúng
use
quay
your
lại.
mind to observe your
Phải
body,
có một cái vùng
and
quang
there
màu,
is
tức là
this
vùng ánh sáng của tâm bảo vệ
radiance
cho
or
chúng ta
this
được
UV light of your own
như
mind
hành tinh này.
like this on
Có
this
bầu
planet.
khí
There's
quyển
like
bao quanh,
we have
không
an
thể có một
ozone
cái gì
layer on
chạm
this
vào được.
planet. There's nothing that can penetrate or invade,
Trừ khi có một cái sự
except
quá
that there
lớn
is
nào được
uh,
cái tầng
something happens in
tất
society,
cả
like the
những cái gì
little
mà
thing,
cháy đó
when
nó
anything that
là
goes
cháy.
through the ozone layer, it is
Cái
burned.
bước thứ hai
And so
trong
then
cái
the
việc tập
second thing
thiền
of
của
our
các vị
practice is
ban
that in
đầu
the beginning,
là rất dễ dàng,
and
đó
it's
là
very
loại
easy,
trừ
is
đi
that
những
it
cái uế
eliminates the sadness
trong
and
cái không
despair in
gian,
our own mind.
lấp đầy
And
tâm
that
của
is
các vị với
filled
tất cả cô
this
đơn trầm
empty
trách
void or
khi
this
đi bộ
loneliness so that to consume
ra
things from your eyes and
lần
your
khi suy
ears
nghĩ
and your
là
thoughts,
tự nhiên
and then
cái
all of a
tài
sudden your
hứng
mind
thực
becomes
tập, cho nên
full
các
of
vị
the
đã
Dharma
có
of
được cái
practice, so
niềm
then you
cảm
have
nhất về
the
năng lực của
happiness
mình.
joy of those who practice
Và
meditation.
điều tuyệt
And
vời đó là
the
nó
most
bảo vệ cái
wonderful thing
tâm
is
các
that it
vị,
protects
tâm
your
các vị
mind. It
trong
protects
trạng
your mind.
thái
Your
cô đơn
mind is
trầm
no
và
longer
thiếu sân
lonely
si,
and
mà nó
empty,
chỉ được
and
lấp
it
đầy
doesn't
bằng
need,
áp
and
năng
it's
thực tập,
filled with
cho nên cái
Dharma
niềm
and the
vui tự
practice.
nhiên nó
And
sẽ
so then the joy
quay
comes
lại
in.
rất là
Those are the two
thật
things
sự
that
ẩn
we
có.
have in order to practice in your own in and out breath,
Lễ thứ
with your own
ba
in and
thì
out
xảy
breath.
ra
And the
rất là tự
third thing that
nhiên,
can
đó là
happen
khi
quite
ta
naturally is
đã
that
có
when
khả năng
you have the capacity to
luôn dùng con mắt tâm của mình
always use
nhìn
the
toàn
eye
thân,
of your mind
nhìn
to
cái hơi thở đang
contemplate your
thở
whole
ra,
body, your in and out
thì
breath,
cái tâm đang quan
then
sát
your
này
mind that is observing
nó được
this
gọi là năng lực
is
chánh
called the
niệm,
energy
trở
of
thành vững
mindfulness. It makes you
càng
more
ngày càng hay,
solid and more full and
càng ngày càng bén,
fulfilling and very sharp
càng sắc sảo.
and very sharp.
Cho nên khi buồn, khi
And so
vui,
when
khi
you're
hận, khi
sad
thích,
and
khi lo
angry
lắng, bất
and
an
this and you're
có
uneasy
mặt,
and then you feel that it is
nó
happiness
nhìn ra ngay.
manifest, you
Trạng
recognize
thái
it right away.
thiền của tâm
And
thức
that
chánh niệm như này ở một
recognition
loại trí
of
tuệ cực bén,
mindfulness, it's a kind of wisdom that is very
nó
sharp.
được gọi là trí tuệ
It's
của
called
bát nhã.
wisdom of
Nó gọi là
Manjushri.
trí tuệ bát nhã. Nó
Wisdom,
chỉ cần quét mắt,
perfected wisdom is
nó
very
chỉ cần
sharp.
thấy đây là
You just
buồn,
need
đây
to
là
see
vui,
that
đây
this
là
is
hận, đây
sadness,
là
this is
giận,
anger, this is
đây là
despair,
lo lắng bất an, đây là trầm
hatred,
cảm.
worry,
Khi nó
anxiety,
nhìn tất
and
cả những cái
and
năng
when you
lượng như
see
vậy
all of these
như những
objects
xúc
of that is
cảm,
being
như
looked
những
like, these
lo âu, như những
emotions,
phiền
these
não
worries
thường
and
có mặt
anxiety,
nó liền bốc
once it
cháy.
arises, it burns.
Cái từ trong kinh
And
Phật
the
gọi là
term
chỉ
in
cần
Buddhist
buông xuống
terminologies, you just need to
thứ
cut
tha,
the shield, cut the
và cùng
afflictions with
chịu vỡ nát,
the sword of wisdom,
thoáng gần vũ
and
trụ,
all
chỉ
illusions
cần
will
dùng
disappear.
ánh
It
sáng
means that
soi
you have to
sáng
use insight to
thì
shine
mọi
light
ưu
upon,
tư, phiền
then
não,
all
bất
of your
an từ
worries
trong
and
tâm thức của
anxiety will
con
disappear.
bị đốt cháy.
It will
Do vậy cho nên dù sống ở núi
dissipate.
sâu rừng
And
sâu,
then, even if you live in the
chịu ăn
mountains,
một
if you
ngàn
eat
bữa,
one meal a day,
đối với đời sống của
for
tăng
the
thì không
life
có
of a
ngày mai,
monastic, there's no
không có sau,
tomorrow, there's no
không
future.
có tiền để sắm
There's
cho
no
một
money
ngàn
that
hai
we
chục
put
con
in in the bank account so that we can leave it for on our will for somebody. And then it doesn't mean that if we're sick and we have money And if we have money for payment, that's just a month. We just live today. If I have, it's according to the people, if I have wine today, today I have wine, I will drink. I won't drink tomorrow. Today, if we have today, if I have a full bowl of rice to eat, then I will practice today. Tomorrow, whether or not I have a bowl of food to eat, well, let that tomorrow take care. So that in that practice already, the monks obtain utter hardship, enlightenment, just by dwelling in the present moment. And in that now, they don't have a car, they don't have a loved one, they don't have money in their bank, but it still seems like they can live to 120 years, and they're able to create the flow of Buddhist monastic practice from 26 centuries. But if the teachings of the Buddha are able to benefit this and maintain this practice, then the Three Jewels is the only place of refuge for everyone to come to take refuge, to have peace and joy. And the monastery, the monks community was able to maintain this kind of practice. We may not be holy yet, but then we are wholesome people. The lay friends, they just need to learn a little bit of a wholesome way of living to bring back into your own everyday life. This is money and fun, fame and rice and food and all of that, etc., etc. It seems like all of that will be a little bit relaxed, and then it not stresses you, and all the affliction will slowly dissipate. To live in a way like this, I'm certain is that there's only one joy that will be present inside of you is that a practitioner is that you no longer have afflictions and sorrow. You're not sad and in despair, and of course the diseases of uh, mental paralysis, it doesn't take over you, and it just sort of allow for your society to control your life. If the news that you read in society every day, um, it makes your mind heavy and weighted because you don't have any time so that you can be lighthearted like our ancestors have done. We might be careful that we fall into the mental paralysis or where you become numb to these feelings. In this term of the country, pumpkin, uh, we're all crazy, but whether you're heavily crazy or light crazy depends on you. So over and all, the sutras of the Buddha is 26 years ago, but it's still the same. It's still applicable to this year. But if the practice of the sutra awareness of breathing, the for establishments of mindfulness, and you can recognize your body, then all of the sickness of your mind will dissipate, and then return you to a peaceful person, or even in Africa or in Philippines, that you're able to dwell in a state of mind full of happiness and joy. And you're not able to taste the Dharma. If you taste the Dharma, even if you do not taste, if you do not practice, you will be unhappy wherever you go. Even if you went to heavens, you will not be happy. So let alone in the U.S. So it's been an hour already. So thank you for listening.